Let's see, has it gone live yet? Let's test the audio. Okay, let's see, has it gone live yet? Let's test. Right, I'll just drop the link on the Discord. I'll be up and running on the stream in a minute. Copy the link. Let's go on Discord. Okay, so I think that's it live, and we've sent the link on the Discord, so hopefully we get a couple of people joining. If not, I guess this will be recorded for later. So I just wanted to show off some of the new features in the update before it goes live. I was having some weirdness with the first-person input controller, so hopefully that's fixed and we'll find out on the stream. Destructible buildings, and when they're going to happen. I do want to work on those soon. That is a whole feature in itself. So it's not something which can just be easily done in a day. But yeah, it is on the roadmap. If you check the Trello board on the Discord, that is one of the things which I've planned to do in the next month or so. So yeah, they will be coming back. I just want to get the foundations of the game done properly, so like map tiles load in and out, user interface works well, etc., etc. So let's just start, I think, for this one. We'll do a 25-kilometer map. It's decent enough, 10 minutes end-to-end, pretty much, or 30 minutes corner-to-corner at max speed. So what I'll do is I'll just generate a map, see what we'll end up with. Do you plan on improving on the vortex dynamics of your tornadoes overall? Yes, I do want to. There is a challenge, though. So the tornadoes in this game are using, so they're completely different from the first version. They're now using an actual fluid simulator. So I have added a vortex and turbulence and different forces. I then use a GPU shader to put essentially density or cloud into that fluid simulation, and that's what gives the tornado effect. The challenge I have is I need to be able to randomly generate the tornadoes and have them still look good. So I found a range of values for things like the top and bottom radius, how much noise is added to it, the vortex strength. And if I change the dynamics, I then have to spend hours figuring out what the new range of random parameters are to get good looking tornadoes. So I do want to continue to improve it. It's just, it's a very sensitive system. So if I change one thing, I then need to go and recalibrate all the values to have the random tornadoes actually look good. One thing I can add in probably soon is like helical vortices, because it's quite a simple formula for the helix. So I can vary the radius with height and use some random Perlin noise just to fade the helical tubes in and out. So you kind of get that horizontal vorticity noodle kind of effect. That'll be a bit of work again, but that is something I do want to add. So at least visually, for the more intense F4, F5 tornadoes, we can get some of these horizontal vorticity noodles coming out. So I think that's the map generated. Let's build an actual interesting scenario. So the default one, if you have a look, we'll give maybe an F1, F2 tornado, but it's not particularly interesting. Outbreak intensity scores are 2, so we can see it here heading southeast. Head into this dead zone of not much cape, not much shear. So that's a little bit boring. So let's crank this up. Set max cape to 5,000, min cape 3,000 maybe. And then helicity, let's crank that right up to 600 and put this down at 250. Because we're going to be trying to deploy probes, I reckon we'll put that deviance down to maybe even 1 degree per second. I'm just going to stick with one tornado for now, just because I haven't fixed the draw order bug. Essentially every volume in the game which gets rendered, so the tornado cell, the tornado, needs to be rendered in the order of furthest from the camera to closest to the camera, so they all overlap correctly. But the asset I'm using for that rendering doesn't easily allow you to control that render order. It's kind of random. I have found a potential workaround, but it's going to be a bit fiddly to implement. But that is something I do want to get fixed so we can have more tornadoes in the game. But for now, I'm just going to stick it to 1 just so it looks good for the stream. But I do want to fix that. Outbreak intensity is 15, significant, so that could be a good chase. Let's do one more preview, make sure we get at least 10, 15 again. So yeah, 15 again. So it looks like it should be a good chase. Let's drop into the game. So that cell's developing very quickly. I think I need to tweak the times for cell development and the tornado development because it is very quick right now. Then again, let's take a look at the environment where we're right now. So I think that's like 5,000 joules per kilogram of heat, probably like 300-400 SRH. So it is quite an extreme scenario in terms of the game. One thing that's in the game now is time progression as well, so you start the game I think 8 or 9 in the morning, which is why the lighting's quite harsh when you first load in. It'll then go through a night cycle, with the night being about 4 times shorter than the day, just so you don't spend the whole time in the dark, because I haven't implemented headlights yet. And then we can also go the in-car view. Try and figure out which direction the cell's moving and get ahead of it. As soon as the tornado touches down, we've got something just touching down to our right there. Yeah, it looks like it's heading northeast, so we need to flip a UE and get ahead of it towards this cornfield here. Yes, that's intensifying quite quickly. It's already F2 strength at least. Take the next right. Also going to have a VHS effect there. Oh, that junction's coming up quite quickly. Right, what's the plan to get ahead of this? Might have to hold back a bit so it crosses the road, and then I think we'll blast north and try and get up to here, or maybe right, and give us a bit more time there. Yeah, I think we'll do that. So you see, we're already experiencing 50-mile-an-hour winds from where we're sat right here. Right, so we should have this turn coming up. Rebuilder's looking amazing. Thank you. Put a lot of time into just getting these tornadoes looking good. It's quite a tricky balancing act between getting something that looks realistic and getting something you actually have some sort of artistic control over. Because the old tornadoes I could control exactly how I want them to look, but there's no fluid or vortices or anything dynamic there. And then the other extreme, I've got a full fluid simulator, but it's really hard to control how they look. So I think I've managed to get that balance just about perfect now. So we need to, I think we're a little bit behind. What we might have to do is go off-road. And I think it's going to hit these hills up here, so maybe we can deploy on the top of one of those hills. Just have to be careful on these roads, because these are hard to drive on purpose. Just like in real life, the roads aren't just straight and flat and taking you where you want to be. Right, it's gaining on us very rapidly. Oh no. Right, I reckon here, we're going to deploy right here. Jump out. Yeah. And I need to actually enable it, so we'll collect wind data at 70 mile an hour. I think the best option here is probably to turn around and get out of there. And now a much requested feature is seeing where the probe is on the map, which I've done there. Right, let's just see, this is getting really strong. So it's F4 strength right now, let's just watch it on VHS mode. So we should be collecting data then. Looks like it's in the F1 window. Yeah, so we'll get 32 F1 samples, but we can do better than that. You can kind of see on the map. Oh, the VHS effect applies to the map now. Didn't realise that. Cool. Yeah, see, we didn't quite get the exact centre, so we need to go back and collect that probe before it gets too far away. There it is. So let's get this back in the truck. One thing I haven't implemented is run yet. Maybe for the next one we'll try and get some pressure data. So I need to collect pressure data, there we go. How we're going to get ahead of this thing. Oh, unintentional jump there. There's no death in the game just yet, so this shouldn't matter too much. Get in front of it, zoom out a bit. We need to be somewhere like here. So what we do, let's go east on that road till we've gained a bit of distance. Where is that road? There it is. So we'll go east till we've gained some distance on it. Oh, the coal's going F5 strength now. Gain some distance, so we'll keep driving east till we get to that cornfield. I think we'll blast through the cornfield onto the other side and then head north and hopefully intercept them here if we can go fast enough. Okay, I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. I've gone off the road. Let's keep going. We should hit a cornfield pretty soon. Kind of want to go diagonal, kind of want to go this way, leading to the left more. Just pulling a twister. Flying through the cornfield. Yeah, one issue I haven't fixed yet is on some tiles the vegetation doesn't load. I think it may just be the computer lagging a little bit, so where you are on the map is ahead of where the computer's managed to load the vegetation up to. That is a recurrent bug I've noticed. The tornado's weakening a bit, but I think once it hits here, it'll strengthen, especially this pocket of helicity here, so it should be alright for an intercept. I think it should hopefully strengthen again to F5, so if we just continue this trajectory. So if I go here, maybe the middle of this dirt road here, could be in a good position for an intercept. Let's zoom in a bit. So where's the dirt road? Where is it? Oh, it's just to our left there. Okay, we'll use the real world trick here of looking for any relative left to right motion. So if I just park here and move the camera so at the bottom of the two funnels to the left, do you see any motion? Does it move along the camera frame at all? slightly. I think we need to be a touch further north, like a tiny bit. Yeah, that should do. That should do. But it is gaining on us very quickly, so let's deploy this at the side of the road. Let's just use the probe as a reference. Yeah, we've got up to 60 mile an hour winds. We need to escape from this now. Escape route. I didn't plan an escape route, which in real life is a big no-no. I reckon if we head east, we'll just about outrun it. We'll check on the data while we're at it. So again, F1 pressure samples now. And we just go a little bit further and flip a UE. We'll add a shear system so that the tornado bends if the upper and lower shear is different. So I do want to vary the shape of the funnel. So if you notice right now, they're all just straight up and down. I do want to vary it and have various amounts of bend in the funnel. So, for example, your narrow funnels are more prone to bending and getting like the elephant trunk shape and things, whereas wedges tend to be, yeah, just straight up and down, maybe a slight slant to them. So I do want to add some slant and bend to the funnels. Whether that reacts to the shear in the environment, though, I'm not sure. Because how it works in the game right now, if I just show helicity, is just a single value. So I'm kind of just treating the entire atmosphere as it has 300 meters squared per second squared of helicity. Yeah, so the variety in the funnel shapes is kind of just a side effect of the environment. So the size that they grow to depends to some degree on randomness and then on the environment. So in a strong environment, they're more likely to grow wide. So the shape is some mixture of random chance in the environment they're in. But since the funnels are just perfectly straight, if you imagine you could draw a line from the center of the base of the funnel to the center of the top of the funnel, and it would be a perfectly straight line. I do want to add some variations there, just so they look a little bit less static, a little bit more alive. Let's see, how did we do there with the data? Again, we're just in the outer bands there. F2 strength maybe. Oh, got 10 F3 strength samples actually, so that's not too bad. We need to, again, collect the probe, get ahead of it again. So each tornado has like a hidden value. I forgot what I've named it, but it's something like intensity width ratio. So all tornadoes have a potential top speed in the game of 318 miles per hour. That's because I think that's the strongest wind speed recorded. It was either Bridge Creek 1999 or it might be El Reno. It might have been both. I think that 318 is kind of an upper limit, which they hit a lot. Well, not hit a lot, but 318 has been the upper limit at least once, possibly twice. So you have the max wind speed. Then I've also set the max width of tornadoes in the game to, I think, 2.4 kilometers. So if the ratio is 1, it means if it reaches 318 miles an hour, it'll be 2.4 kilometers wide. If the ratio is 0.5, it means if it gets to 380 miles an hour, it'll be 1.2 kilometers wide. So there's like, each tornado has a random width according to its intensity, because just because the tornado is wide doesn't mean it's intense, and just because it's narrow doesn't mean it's weak. So that's kind of just varied at random behind the scenes, just to keep things interesting. Those wedge tornadoes are cool, but if every single tornado is a wedge, the game would start to get a bit boring and repetitive. Can the tornado winds pull yet? Not yet. That is something I could add in fairly quickly. Because the wind calculation's already there, so as you can see right now, 29 mile an hour winds based on our distance from the tornado. So they're there, all I have to do is figure out the direction that the winds pull you in. So it is fairly straightforward. You just essentially imagine an arrow drawn from the center of the tornado towards us. We'll then rotate that arrow 90 degrees anti-clockwise, and then maybe lift it so it points into the air a bit, and then you apply that force vector to the vehicle, and you'll get pulled relative to your proximity to the tornado, so the closer you are, the harder it'll pull the vehicle, and the more it's likely to throw your vehicle up in the air or drag it along the ground. How close is this to the edge of the map? Oh, not very, actually. We can still get ahead of this again. I reckon we'll do a Bob's Road and go through the cornfield again. Let's try and predict what it's going to do next. There's a really intense pocket of cape here that looks like it's heading towards. The general looks like it's going to intensify again. Let's aim, let's see. If we get here, let's take these overlays off. So I reckon we take this next left, and then just head north regardless of what the terrain does, and we'll hopefully be in a good intercept position. So... oh yeah, so there was a damage model, but that was for kind of like the old truck. So I don't know if you saw some of the earlier previews. It was kind of like a generic looking truck that got as part of the vehicle controller. So the damage model works well for that because it was a very simple model with not very many polygons. Whereas this truck, I did pay for it to be custom made. Somebody modelled this, and it's a lot more detailed of a model. So you can have damage, but it lags the game so much. I don't really think it's worth having. Maybe I can figure out some sort of hot swap. So you have the high poly version before you damage your vehicle, and once you damage it, you have the low poly version, and maybe we can have the best of both worlds. But yeah, it is a damage model, but I've taken it out just for now that the yellow truck, I'm not going to name any brands for legal purposes, but I've taken the damage model out just because you'd crash, and then the whole game would pause for like 3 seconds while it calculated what the damage model should look like, and then it would update, and it just wasn't really playable. The map size, so yeah, I chose... what did I choose again? I think I chose 25 kilometers by 25 kilometers. Originally I did let the slider go up to 100 kilometers, so you can have a 100 kilometer map if you want. But the challenge with that... oh, can we outrun this? The challenge with that was that if you hit generate a random map that's 100 kilometers by 100 kilometers, that's something like 20,000 tiles or something ridiculous. So you'd be sat waiting like an hour just for the map to be generated. You also get what's called floating point errors, so as you get further and further away from the 0, 0 coordinate in the world, like the origin, you start to get weirdness happening with physics and rendering. Now, that's quite a beautiful sight. Actually, that's almost screenshot worthy for the stream thumbnail. Look at that. 1 second, just gotta get a screenshot of this. And zoom out, and print screen. Windows Shift S. No, you can't see the edge of the funnel. 1 sec. I've got to get a screenshot of this. Actually, it's quite good. Right. I think I'm in position to collect some more data. Yeah, I think we're way too close, actually. Alright. Do a little bit of running away here. Are you going to be doing anything like Outbreak or Twisted? That depends what... oh, that looks... so I've never actually played the game, like, tested it long enough for it to get to Sunset. I'm actually surprised how good that looks. It depends what you mean. Anything like them? Like, what are you talking about specifically, like multiplayer? Or talking about realistic scenarios? I do have multiplayer planned. However, that is a huge amount of work. And like, there'd essentially be no further development on the game until I got the entire... oh, is that the Moonrise there? So there'd be no work on the game until I got multiplayer completely finished. So I want to have all the base features in the game first, so it's fun as a single player game while there's that big wait for multiplayer. But that is on the roadmap. In terms of real world scenarios, I don't really have those planned. I think I try and play to the game's strengths. So for this one, it's the arcade style, sort of instant fun. Whereas Outbreak's unique selling point is the realism. So I kind of don't want to step on their toes. I don't think they're planning on doing random scenarios either. So I think we just kind of both offer different things. What else do you plan adding? single player features wise? That's a good question. I have to remember there's a lot. I do tend to put things on the Trello board when I have an idea, just so that I don't forget. But let's think off the top of my head. Things I want to have happen. One thing is ground scouring. So you can see the game already calculates this damage map. So all I need to do is when a tile loads in, so the map's actually lots of 500 meter by 500 meter tiles. I already know the wind speed that tile's experienced because this is already calculated. So all I have to do is apply a different texture on the terrain at that point, and you'd get like a ground scouring effect. But it actually starts to get quite creepy at night time, doesn't it? Even worse with VHS. Take a screenshot of that. That could almost pass as a real video. And other features. Let me think of other features. Photogrammetry. So, what it could do is this is similar to Storm Chasers. So you can take photos and earn money for taking photos of the tornado. What I might also do is calculate the amount of debris in the air and give you more points for more debris, but from the point of view of this gives you more data points for doing photogrammetry to calculate the wind speeds rather than just rewarding you for taking photos of greater and greater amounts of destruction. And is the moon up yet? It was before. The only thing I don't like about Outbreak is the constant stovepipe and or rope. Yeah, a lot of the tornadoes in Outbreak are visually quite similar, and I get that. I think the experience Outbreak of this is different, so it's more multiplayer, more collaborative. Like, I had a lot of fun. There's a Discord I joined where we kind of organise our own chases, and we're chasing a private server. And I think the reward is a decent forecast and getting good intercepts and kind of the realism rather than the visual variety of the tornadoes. But I do understand that. That's why I want to try and have... This game focuses more on action, fun, and kind of like randomization, having a unique experience rather than realism and kind of having a repetitive experience. Right, let's put this back in bed. The tornado's still churning away there. So if I have a look, it originally formed all the way down here. Hit F5 strength briefly, weakened, and as you can see, if I put Cape and Helicity on, you'll see where it weakens, where the overlap of Cape and Helicity gets weaker. So it hits this red patch, it gets stronger. When it hits like the yellow patches, it gets weaker. So there's a little bit of forecasting skill in here, but it is simplified. So I've got some messages here. The game will pause for a second just while I scroll down the chat to see what people are asking. VHS tornado looks really good, almost horror. Yeah, thank you. I am actually working on a horror-themed game. I think I put it on the Discord a while back. And I think it would be useful to incorporate some elements of horror into the game. I have to try and think carefully about that because this isn't a horror game, but adding some elements of horror can add to the intensity of the game. Like if you can get your heart rate up and you're genuinely terrified of the tornadoes and what's coming next, then I think that's a good thing. But yeah, Slenderman is like a Halloween event if the game releases. Maybe not Slenderman. One idea I did have is if you drive out of bounds too long, that random Teletubbies characters will just spawn in front of your vehicle, and then if you hit one of them, it'll say like you killed Tinky Winky, and the tornadoes will just come after you and kill you. That's one idea I think I had a couple of years back with the original game. Just how can we just throw a curveball at the player, something that they're not expecting at all. Photogrammetry sounds really cool. If that's the case, have you ever considered adding a drone kind of like the Autis project is doing? I'm not familiar with what the Autis project is doing, but a drone is on the Trello. One challenge with the drone is the way the game works. Let's see if I can zoom out enough. So in order to have a massive map, what I do is imagine the grid, and I load a 3x3 grid. So if you look at your numpad actually, so wherever you are is always the number 5 key, and then I load all the numbers 1 through 9. around wherever the player is. And that's how the game can be fast, but also have a giant map. With a drone, depending on the height you can fly, that illusion might be broken a bit, because you'll see tiles popping in and out as you move along. So I do want to have a drone, because I think that would be really cool. But it does have to be balanced with like the limitations of how the map's handled. So let's try and catch up with this tornado now. We've got the probe. I'm trying to think of like some character which could have for like a Halloween special, because I know I started playing the game, what's it called, Phasmophobia, and I could only play it a few times. Even though I'm a game developer, I understand how games work. I know it isn't real. I just got too tense and too nervous playing it. There's some sort of realism about being in like an empty house, just like the ambience of being in just an empty house, but then having like these entities just appear. It was very intense. It kind of put me off playing. So yeah, I do want to take some sort of horror element, some sort of character in here, but maybe not like a djinn or poltergeist or anything like that. Let's see, how can we catch it? It's about to go off the map. So, what it does right now, I do need to change this. This is just a simplified thing. For testing, is whenever the tornado goes off the end of the map, it'll always spawn again in the bottom left corner. So, we pretty much need to head. We'll just follow this trail in reverse, I reckon. Because the tornado will rope out. Maybe we can watch it rope out, and then we'll follow the track in reverse. I'll throw a drone tornado to get in. Is that the person who works with Reed Timmer? I've seen drones on his chases. Yeah, I guess it's kind of a clash between having this set in the 90s, like, I think I'm using 90s as like an aesthetic choice for like the user interface, but I don't think that necessarily means I have to limit it to only 90s technology, so yeah, I could have a drone in the game. Maybe what I could do is limit the altitude, because it's really the viewing angle. If you're looking down at like 45 degrees, you're going to see tiles loading. Yeah, I just lost a headphone there, but if we have a lower altitude, like just say like 50 meters or so, you can have a more shallow viewing angle and the illusion might not be spoiled. Yeah, so once this goes off the map, yeah, you're going to see it start to weaken and rope out, and then we'll follow that trail back. I think it does devil chase. Just devil. Give it some upside down horns, which are like sub-vortices spinning around outside it or something like that. Go too far and it goes off. Whoops, I must have hit something in the dark there. Yeah, you can see the funnel retreating back up there into the clouds. Where is it? Yeah, I think just some sort of soft lock on the altitude of the drone could actually get us around that issue. Yeah, definitely need to implement headlights. Remind me to add that to the Treho. We need headlights. Alright, let's see. Once I'm heading in the right direction, I can just keep going that way. One thing I should do as well is have this maybe be an arrow rather than a circle, so you can see what direction we're going. Okay, I think if we head left a little bit there. There we go. So it should spawn again somewhere in the bottom left, heading in a random direction. We can do it all over again. And Bill Paxton. Now we've got to be really careful with real life people, anything which could potentially be copyrighted or trademarked, or I don't know how actors' appearances work. I think I did just have an intellectual property training at work the other week, and you can trademark things like unique images, unique designs, except the patent only applies to the exact design that you file. So I don't know, there's probably some ownership of the studios with the actors' images or public people, I'm not sure. I have actually been in contact with Sean Whalen a couple of times, just on some minor things. I'm guessing he'd probably charge quite a fee though to do like voice acting for the game. For those who don't know, Sean Whalen played Sanders in Twister. If the one being told to roll the maps by his name's escaping me right now. By Rabbit, the character Rabbit. He's the one being told by Rabbit to roll the maps and unfold them. And for those who haven't seen, if you look at Sean Whalen's, I'm not sure he's got, it's not a Patreon, but it is a type of website where you can support people. He has like a 2-hour sort of video conference where people ask him questions about his experience filming Twister, and he talks about different experiences he had. It's only like, I don't know, $7-8 or something like that. Maybe a little bit more, but it was really well worth the money. It was really interesting. Will future tornado simulation upgrades be added to the tornado design tool? So one thing that has happened is that the tornado design tool is kind of dated compared to how the tornadoes are rendered in the game. I do need to update that. Quite a lot has changed. And the top priority right now is the game, but that definitely is something that will be in the backlog of updating the tornado design tool. Because talking about features I might add is if you take a photo of a tornado, I can go save the parameters of how it was rendered, so that you can have sort of like essentially a trophy room, like in like a Deer Hunter game, but it's the tornadoes that you've seen maybe on like a computer screen, and you can re-render them. So because all the design parameters are there, you could maybe tweak the design in game. Maybe the tornado design tool becomes part of the game, and you can put your own custom designs into the game. But that itself isn't on the roadmap just yet, but I do need to update the tornado design tool because people were coming up with really cool designs. People don't know there's a Discord for this, it's in the description. You can go there and there's a tornado design tool channel, and you can look at designs people have come up with. There's also some challenges I posted a while back to see if you can recreate specific historical tornadoes from the past. Looks like the cell's forming over there. Yeah, one thing I need to add as well is the reflectivity radar. I've kind of left it off now because the tornado trail makes it really obvious where the tornado is, but not necessarily where the cell is. So we've got another tornado here, so maybe if we plan for this cornfield here. One thing I need to do as well is add different physics materials to the different surfaces, so the grass. So the car does react to different physics materials, I just haven't assigned them yet. It's like the road should be grippy and provide plenty of friction for driving and steering, whereas grass can add a lot more rolling resistance and a lot less friction. So I guess, how does that work? There's more rolling resistance, so trying to get going takes longer, but you tend to lose grip easily when you steer, can react to all that. Oh, there's just a beast hidden there in the darkness, isn't there? It looks like he's wearing a cape or something. It's like a vampire tornado. Speaking of vampires, completely off topic, if you haven't watched Midnight Mass on Netflix, definitely worth checking out. Didn't you make the reflectivity for Storm Chasers? Yes, I did actually. So this is a small project. Wanted to see if I could randomly generate like radar images of reflectivity. So I came with a little algorithm to do that just on my own. Just I was having something to do. And then when I saw the radar inside Storm Chasers, I was like, oh, that can be improved. So I contacted the developer, and he was kind enough to accept my help. He put my code into the game, which was the first time I saw any of my code go into a game that's for public release. And then I reused that same algorithm. The code was a bit different from how it went in Storm Chasers, because I did add like a bit of a fluid simulation and stuff to kind of twist the cell and try and create hoops. It didn't quite work how I hoped originally, but yeah, I wrote for Storm Chasers and then reused it in the first release of Tornado Research and Rescue. I think we're getting close enough. I think. Yeah, I think we're getting a bit too close here. Yeah. Right, stop. Yeah, at night time you can barely see it. You can hear it, just about to see the outline. Right, drop. Okay, so is it going to get hit? Okay, I'm going to get hit. I need to get out of here. Yeah, I think headlights definitely need to be added. There's just enough ambient light to see where we're going. Alright, so I'm trying to remember Skip Talbot's... it's got F5 strength as well. This is looking like it's going to be a perfect set. So again, F1 strength. Right now. F2. So Skip Talbot's training. He did like a safety lesson from El Reno. So first thing you should do is put distance between yourself and the tornado before you then turn left or right to get out of its path. Let's have a look at the data. Oh yeah, F4, F5, we've got our first F5 samples. One thing I'll need to do as well is wire in the Steam achievements. So there's achievements for getting like, it's like 50, 100, 200, 300, 500 samples of different strengths. Now I'll have to create achievements for each of the data types as well. So wind speed, pressure, dew point, and temperature. So maybe we need to change the mode and get some dew point samples or temperature samples as well. Let's have a look at that. That was pretty bang on placement, wasn't it? And realising we're still in the path here. This one's really wide. I think this one's closer to an actual mile wide in the game. To give a screen effect when you're closer to the shake. Yeah, it did have a camera shake controller in the first game, and I can easily add that back in. So it's hard to tell whether people liked that or not. I could always make an option to toggle on and off. But yeah, just it adds to the intensity when you're trying to click and drag and move the probe to deploy it, and then having the camera wobble as well, so it adds extra intensity to it, and makes a greater degree of skills needed as well. We're at a safe view distance now. We had rescuing in the building. Dead houses. Yes, so I've got a few ideas of how the rescue can work. And one thing I was thinking of having a system where you had, well, thinking of like PvP, which would sound like a particularly vulnerable person. I don't know if that's a real life term I've accidentally borrowed there. But the idea would be as a tornado approaches a town or a building that's in its path, you get like a pager alert, like you know that there's a vulnerable person there, and you need to go to that location and essentially pick that person up and get them out of the path of the tornado. Then there'll have to be some sort of drop-off spot, like a hospital, or maybe just the same house once the tornadoes pass. Yeah, I do want there to be a rescue element in the game. In terms of warning people, I think tornado siren is easy enough to add. It's a little bit more complicated now that the map can be randomly generated. So I was thinking of two things. You have a siren which warns everybody within, let's say, like a 5-kilometer radius, and then taking inspiration from it was the Andover tornado where the policeman had to drive through drop that probe when the sirens failed. I think was it Andover 1991. The sirens failed and the police had to drive around with like a loudspeaker warning people. So essentially a portable siren which deploys from your truck, and then you have to just drive past as many houses as you can. I think the way it's implemented in Storm Chasers, where you go and knock on every door, is a bit too slow. So I think Siren will warn everybody within a certain radius, but then if because of the way the map's generated there's certain people who aren't getting warned, then you can manually drive around and warn those people. Where's the probe? Maybe I need to add a little HUD like hint so you can see where it is more easily. Is that it? Yeah, there it is. Or some lights or something which make it a bit easier. Right, we need to catch back up with that. Time to watch Twister again. Yeah, I've still been back in 2020. It's kind of like a childhood curiosity. Was like, where were the scenes actually filmed? So I used to watch Twister. I must have been about 8 at the time. So this would have been 1999, 2000. I was curious where they were filmed, but I wasn't really old enough to figure out how to use the internet. There wasn't anything like Google Maps that were easily accessible to Street View. So in 2020, in lockdown, there wasn't a lot to do. So I was like, let's try and find as many of these locations as I can. So I started mapping out. I found quite a lot, and a lot of other people joined in as well, helping find locations. But I still look for them now. There's one scene which I just cannot find, no matter where I look. So I'm pretty sure it's an Iowa scene. It's where they take Bob's Road, then cut through the cornfield, and then they merge into a country road and almost crash into Jonas's team. Because it's so generic, it's literally a cornfield on a paved road with power lines. There's very little to go off. However, it is quite a unique spot because you can see tree lines in both directions, but you've also got open cornfields, so it is quite a unique sort of geography. Because in Iowa, you tend to have either densely wooded areas near rivers or open cornfields. There's not many places where you have both. So I still look for that now and again. I'll just pop open Google Maps and drag and drop the Street View guy, different places where I think it might be. And I found one very close match, but then realised the road surface wasn't the right type. So it is really hard to find. And then there's some other scenes in the F5 scene, like where Jonas gets hit by the top of the radio tower, and some other small, like short clips of the F5 from different angles. I haven't figured out where they were in real life, because you get into rural Iowa and it's just a road grid with cornfields, and there's very little unique landmarks to go off. When I first watched Twister as a kid, I was terrified by even Rob the Twister ride. I was terrified even more by that. Yeah, I think the ride probably is scarier than the movie as a kid. I remember going to watch it. I remember a few things. So I went to see it when it first came out. I don't think we'll have time to step on this road. I think we need to go east a little bit, gain some distance, and then we'll intercept again. So the few things I do remember, so I would have been 4 years old at the time. I went to see it with my dad. I wasn't scared by it. I didn't really enjoy it. But I remember that first scene where the dad gets sucked out of the shelter. That was very intense. I remember that scene. I remember when they first meet up and they talk about Dorothy. But because I was young at the time and I wasn't really paying much attention, I thought Melissa's name was Dorothy. Yeah, I just wasn't really paying attention there. What else do I remember? I do distinctly remember the F3 scene when the tornado's on the hill and it's kind of dropping down and lifting back up. I remember that. I don't know if I remember the ditch scene where it destroys the barn. I don't know if I've got a false memory there, but I do remember that. And I remember the sensors kind of spilling all over the road. I remember the nighttime tornado at the drive-in theatre. And I do remember them adding the propellers to the sensors. And again, my childhood logic was that we were building the sensors out of the cans, not that they were using the cans as like lift devices for the sensors. So again, me just not paying attention. But I do remember that scene. So this was 1996, so almost 30 years ago, so these memories are really blurry. And the last thing I remember is when they're running away from the F5 and the fence is getting ripped out of the ground. And like the posts are firing in the air, like that's the last thing. So I can only remember a few scenes and a few details from watching it that long ago. I did actually get to see it in theatres last year, because with Twisters being released, they did a what's it called? It's like where the seats move and things like that. They did that for both Twisters and Twister, so I got to see it for the first time in the cinema in 30 years, which was would have been like 28 years at the time, which was quite nice. I'm trying to simulate an eye instead of tornadoes. Oh, that's the thing. That is something I was actually thinking of today, actually, simulating an eye. So right now the tornadoes are solid, and maybe once the sun rises, maybe I can show that, and we'll drive through one. Right now they're solid, but I was thinking of having them be a bit more hollow in the middle, maybe allow more light to enter the funnel, maybe create more visually interesting effect, I'm not sure. But then have like a small sub-vortex in the middle, kind of like a Twister, just that. Just kind of like have that shout out to Twister. Can't actually see where the tornado is anymore, it's just completely black. Is it coming this way? Oh, I'm still in the path, man. Right. Let's head north. Remember the water triplets, the drunk cow scene? Yeah, do I remember? I don't think I remember the water triplets. And just the way that scene's edited together, it looks like the decision for the third tornado was added after the scene, because nobody acknowledges that third tornado, and we only say we've got sisters, never like we've got triplets or anything like that. So I feel like the third tornado was added after the script was written and after all the recording and that. Oh, that tornado's widening quite a lot. Oh, I forgot to change the data types. We've got a lot of pressure data here. Plan on reading the towns, re-adding the towns like Stratford and stuff. So I'm gonna have to come up with some sort of clever algorithm. So since these are tiles that get generated and slotted together randomly, what I'd have to do, I'm not gonna get hit by the outer bands of this tornado here. What I'm gonna have to do is figure out, based on how the tiles are randomly placed, which cluster of tiles defines a town. I think maybe if I can do that, I can solve the siren range problem, and then I'll just have like a dictionary of towns. So of course I'll use the ones from the original game, like Stratford and Silverfield, and then they'll just be randomly added on top of where the towns are. I'll have to have some sort of clever clustering algorithm. You can add towns from Twister, like Town Eggleston. Yeah, well, the idea is that there's a map editor, so you don't just have to randomly generate the whole map. I just do that for the sake of time, because there's no way of saving and loading the maps right now. So there's no reason why you couldn't use all the tiles that you have, because you've got tiles for straight roads, curved roads, intersections, dirt roads. So there's nothing stopping you pulling up a map of Wakita and building it yourself as close as you can. Hopefully in the future you can save the maps and share them, so you could create like one map for like Wakita, and you could create a map for like the F5 scene, where it's like lots of open cornfields. Create a map for the F1 scene where there's a lot more woodland. So I'd still have a lot more tile types I want to add to this to keep the map as interesting as possible. Right, let's go pick up our Pro. I'm heading the wrong way. Stuff here. One thing I do want to do is add the wind chimes from Aunt Meg's house. So I've got a subscription to an AI 3D model generator. So how it works is you can either describe it with a text prompt, or you can give it an image, and it will then design the 3D models from that image. So that's what I've used actually for the Toto Probe. I give it a picture of the Toto Probe, then said please remove all like the NOA branding and things, and kind of clean up the lighting, because the photo of it's really old. So it used AI to generate a cleaned up photo of Toto, then fed that into the model generator to create this. So that's how I ended up with, oops, set that flying. That's how I ended up with this. So this is actually all AI generated from one 2D photo, which, yeah, I feel like we're living in the future now. But yeah, what I want to do, speaking of that, so I went off topic there. The reason I mention that is because I can just take stills from the movie of the wind chimes. I doubt that the ship of wind chime is copyright or anything. And then we can put that in the game. Well, that tornado's really wide. Look at that. That is truly a wedge. That's definitely wider than it is tall. Let's try and get in front of it again. I still can't quite comprehend what a mile-wide tornado is like in real life. Like, I know how far a mile is, like, when I'm driving, so that's like a tenth of the way from my house to work. And that's like the width of the tornado funnel, I think. That's one thing, actually, in the F5 scene of Twisted doesn't quite make sense. The scale of the tornado keeps changing. So, they say it's a mile wide, but then as the tornado's approaching the barn, when they're running to shelter in the barn and then they realise there's a bunch of sharp tools there, and they run out, the tornado's then right behind the barn, and it's just a bit wider than the barn, and the barn's obviously on a mile wide. So I think one thing that movies get wrong is kind of like the scale and the perspective, but we'll forgive it because it's Twisted. It's still the best tornado movie ever. But I think one thing in this game, as you get closer to this tornado, you do start to get an idea of the real scale of these things. Speaking of scale of tornadoes, there's a YouTube video called, I think it's called like The Scale of Tornadoes. It's the same guy who does like The Scale of Volcanoes and some other videos. So I was actually just listening to him in the car the other day. I had a long commute just because of the snow. It snows every year here in England and people still don't know how to drive in it. So I knew I was in for a long commute. I was like, let's find something interesting to listen to. So that same guy who does those, like the scale of tornadoes, scale of volcanoes, did a video on the movie Tornado, which is kind of like a made-for-TV version of Twister. About 45 minutes in, he shows a visualization of Dorothy. Then I realised it's the software I made a few years ago, and it's got in the corner credit to Sam Kennedy. It's like, oh cool, wasn't even expecting that. So my Dorothy user interface software replica actually appeared in the wild, just on a YouTube video I just happened to be watching about tornadoes, which was cool. Yeah, the Twister 5 definitely weakened as it went along. There's a reason for how Bill and Joe survived. Yeah, that does make sense actually, if it's gradually getting narrower. Let's see, we're in the path. Oh, I think we're in an almost perfect location. Let's change the data type. Can't see. All I can do is listen to the wind, and so let's collect temperature data. I don't think we have any temperature data, do we? No, okay. Time to get out here because the winds are up to 70 miles an hour. Yeah, the winds. Also, one thing I did notice in the movie is the tornadoes. The tornadoes always rope out once they catch up with them. So if you notice, so the F1 scene, they hide under the bridge, and the tornado conveniently ropes out right as it hits them under the bridge. Then they get to the water spouts. The car gets hit, and luckily the water spouts rope out right then and there. Then on Twister Hill, they have that argument. The tornado's about to touch down on top of them. Conveniently lifts up back into the clouds so it doesn't touch down again. I think the only one who doesn't is the, and I think it's for the plot line, is the drive-in one, because that tornado also hits Makita. So it couldn't have roped out because it needed it for the storyline to hit Aunt Meg's. So they could take the inspiration for what needed to finally get the sensors working. Then the F5 does the same, so that happens conveniently. Was it like main character syndrome or something? Let's see. Was that a good? That looks like it was a good placement. Let's check our data. Oh yeah, we've got some F5 samples. So even though F5 strength isn't showing on the map, that map is a reduced resolution of what's actually going on inside the tornado. So the actual F5 strength might only be a few pixels wide. We'll have to check if there's not a bug there. But yeah. Got some F5 samples. So what I need to do is figure out how are we going to value this. Oh, sorry, there's another comment here I didn't see. Like I said earlier, with ground scouring, if you add trees, you also plant an empty box. Ooh. So what I was thinking of is just removing the trees. But if I could get some sort of alternate texture, just apply different texture to those trees, I'll have to see if that's possible, because when you've got loads of things like grass and trees, to render them quickly, you essentially big batch of data sent to the GPU, and they're rendered all at once. So whether you can change the texture on a few of them, I'd have to see. But I do like the idea of having like a debarked or deleaved tree. One thing I do kind of want to make a video about the real life locations of Twister, because there's a couple of them which have been hit by tornadoes in real life, which also happen to follow almost the exact same route as the tornadoes in the movie. And some of them are interesting tornadoes as well. So one was the 1990 Red Rock tornado, the first one. I think they've had radar observations done. But that, if that was in real life, you would have seen it in the ditch scene. And you would have also seen it in the side. Nobody says, "Oh, it's a sidewinder," and he kind of throws the car in reverse and like drives away from Jonas. You would have where the F2 is seen and the kind of the helicopter shot there. You would have also seen that Red Rock tornado in real life. And so it also went over the section of the road where Bill and Joe are arguing, and he kind of veers off the road and almost goes to the back of the combine. I believe the tornado also crossed that. Like, it would have been 5 years prior to filming. So I think they filmed in 95 and maybe 96, if I remember right. So yeah, and then again in 2011, where the ditch scene was, you actually see some silos in the background when he's driving in the ditch. And those aren't there anymore because they were hit by a real tornado, I think in 2010 or 2011, which pretty much came through that field in almost the exact same location and crossed the road in almost the same place. So I do want to do a video about either the Red Rock tornado or the real life Twister locations or both. So, I'm starting to think I got the settings in this game wrong. So I set the night ratio to 4 and the day ratio to 1, thinking it would make the night 4 times slower than the day. I mean 4 times faster, and I think it's made it 4 times slower. So yeah, maybe I'll make that last little tweak before I publish this update tonight. I'm driving the wrong way. Oh, it's about to go off the map again. So I think once this rope's out, I will have to end the stream there because I do need to get up early tomorrow and need to actually publish the update so people can play this. So I think what we'll do is we'll find a good watching spot and we'll just watch this thing rope out and then I'll end the stream there. Because essentially it goes from an environment into 0 cape, 0 shear as soon as it goes off the edge of this map. And then very rapidly after that. So yeah, so I'll stream for the next few minutes and I'll push an update. And then you all can enjoy this. Oh, there's even stars as well. Just see them through the gaps in the clouds. Yeah, one thing I've done is I've changed the weather engine in this. More out of compatibility, I wanted to use the universal render pipeline for this game. It gives a lot more flexibility in the devices long term that it can be rendered on. You can create better effects in URP, I feel, as well. And I also wanted to use Unity 6 instead of Unity 2022, was it? So in order to do that, I sadly had to stop using, I think it was WeatherMaker I had before, and now I'm using Enviro 3. So it's a shame because the developer for that was really cool. He helped me a lot with customizing things for the game. But just because of compatibility and he wasn't able to update the asset, I just had to part ways with it. So you see it's weakening now. So yeah, so this asset, I think it has a few nice things like higher resolution like cloud textures and stars and moon, and I think you even have an option for like northern lights. I suggest maybe in cruise control so you can drive. It was total and jump out last second. So that is an option. But what's the plan if you miss the tornado? Your trucks then drove away with the probe. You're never going to catch up to it again on foot. So, oops, I think we missed the rope out there. So it's fun, but once you've jumped out, your truck is driven off. There'll need to be some sort of way of despawning your old truck and getting your new one in. So yeah, thank everybody for joining. I've enjoyed the comments and the questions and being able to interact while I've streamed this. What I'll do now, I'll close the stream out. I'll make the daytime and nighttime the right way around, so that daytime's 4 times longer than nighttime rather than the other way around. And then I'll push the update, and you should have this hopefully in the next 10-15 minutes or so. So thank everybody, and good night or good afternoon or good morning, depending on where in the world you're watching from. Signing out now. See ya.